There is a strange quiet that comes after a decision. It's not the tense silence of waiting for a message that never arrives. It's not the hollow ache of an empty inbox. It's a different kind of stillness. The phone lies on the table, dark and inert, and for the first time, your body is not a tightly wound spring, waiting for it to light up. You stopped. You stopped checking. You stopped initiating. You stopped filling the spaces he left empty. You stopped being available. And in the silence that followed, something shifted. It's a change you feel first in your own nervous system. A slow, unfamiliar calm begins to seep into the places where anxiety used to live. But then, a new question arises, quiet and persistent. What is happening on the other side of that silence? What does a man feel when the woman who was a constant, warm presence in his life suddenly becomes an absence? When the easy access, the validation, the emotional comfort is no longer on tap? The common answer is that he will panic, he will start to chase, he will realize what he's lost. And sometimes that happens. But that is the surface story. The truth of what unfolds within him is far deeper, more complex, and has less to do with you than you can possibly imagine. It's a psychological drama that plays out in the theater of his unconscious mind. And to understand it is to free yourself from the agonizing loop of waiting for his reaction. Because what he is reacting to is not your absence. He is reacting to the sudden emptiness of a mirror. For a long time, you were a mirror, a beautiful, receptive mirror. In you, he saw a reflection of himself that he liked. He saw a man who was desired, understood, appreciated. He saw the hero, the wise one, the charming rogue. You reflected back to him the best parts of his own ideal self, and you, in turn, saw a reflection in him. Perhaps you saw the man who would finally see you, the one who would fill a void, the one whose love would feel like a destination. This dance of reflections can feel intoxicating. It can feel like love. It can feel like destiny. But it is often a hall of mirrors, where two people are not truly seeing each other, but are instead falling in love with the images they project. This is where the work of Carl Jung becomes not an academic theory, but a lamp in a dark room. Jung spoke of the anima, the unconscious feminine side of a man's psyche. The anima is an inner figure, an archetype, a collection of all his ancestral experiences of the feminine, of mothers, sisters, lovers, goddesses, and muses. It is his inner soul image. A man is often unconsciously searching for a woman in the outer world who can carry the projection of this powerful inner figure. When he met you, something in you resonated with this inner image. Your warmth, your intelligence, your empathy, your way of listening, it all became a perfect screen onto which he could project his anima. He wasn't just attracted to you, the real, complex human woman. He was mesmerized by the way you brought his own soul to life. He was falling in love with a part of himself that he could only see when it was reflected in your eyes. And you, being available, being receptive, being present, held that projection for him. You became the custodian of a precious part of his psyche. Your constant presence assured him that his soul, his anima, was safe, real, and accessible. This is why your availability was so crucial to the dynamic. It wasn't just convenient for him, it was psychologically necessary to maintain the illusion. So, what happens when the mirror is removed? What happens when the woman stops being available? It is not a simple case of absence makes the heart grow fonder. It is a profound psychological disturbance. The first thing that happens is confusion. The world feels slightly off kilter. The feedback loop is broken. He sends out an emotional signal, perhaps a fleeting thought of you, and expects the usual echo of your presence, your availability. But this time, there is only silence. The echo doesn't return. This is disorienting. At first, his conscious mind, his ego, might dismiss it. She's busy. She's playing games. I'll hear from her later. The ego is a master of rationalization. It hates to admit that it has lost control, that something has shifted without its permission. The persona he wears, the cool, unaffected man, will work overtime to maintain an appearance of indifference. But the unconscious doesn't care about appearances. In the unconscious, the removal of the anima projection feels like a loss, not just a loss of a person, but a loss of a vital part of himself. It's as if a light has been switched off in an inner room. The world seems a little less colorful. a little less meaningful. He might not even connect this feeling to you consciously. He might just feel a general sense of unease, irritability, or emptiness. He might find himself thinking of you at odd times, not with romantic longing, but with a kind of frustrated bewilderment. The thoughts are not, "I miss her." They are more like, "Where did she go?" It's the feeling of reaching for something on a shelf that has always been there, only to find empty space. The hand grasps at nothing, and for a moment, the brain cannot compute. This is the first stage, the disruption of the pattern. He is experiencing a withdrawal, not from you, but from the constant validation of his own projected anima. You were the source of a psychological drug, and now the supply has been cut off. The deeper truth here is uncomfortable. For a time, his attraction was dependent on your availability. Your constant presence was the very thing that made the projection possible. A woman who is always there, always understanding, always ready to engage, is the perfect canvas. She doesn't have sharp edges that might disrupt the image. She is smooth, accommodating, a perfect surface for his inner fantasy. When you withdraw, you are no longer a smooth canvas. You suddenly have your own shape, your own boundaries, your own life that doesn't revolve around reflecting him. You cease to be just an object for his projection, and you start to become a subject in your own right. And this is terrifying to the part of his ego that relied on you to feel whole. This is where his behavior can become contradictory. He might pull back even further, punishing you with more silence. This is an ego defense. His pride is wounded. How dare she withdraw from me? I will show her that I don't need her. It's a power play, an attempt to regain control of the dynamic by demonstrating that he is the one who dictates the distance. He wants you to break first, to come back and restore the comfortable pattern. Or he might do the opposite. He might start sending out small signals, breadcrumbs, a late-night text that says, "Thinking of you," a like on a social media post from weeks ago, a vague, non-committal message that is just enough to test the waters. These are not necessarily signs of genuine remorse or a desire to reconnect on a deeper level. They are often unconscious attempts to see if the mirror can be put back in its place. He is checking if you are still available to hold his projection. If you respond immediately, warmly, and with the same level of availability as before, the dynamic snaps right back into place. The crisis is averted for him, and you are back to being the custodian of his soul image, while your own needs remain unseen. But what if you don't? What if your silence is not a tactic, but a genuine turning inward? What if you are no longer available to be his mirror because you are finally busy looking into your own? This is the point of transformation. When his attempts to restore the old dynamic fail, his unconscious disturbance deepens. The mild unease can curdle into anxiety or a strange phantom grief. He is grieving the loss of his anima, the beautiful, idealized feminine that you represented. He is forced to confront the fact that this source of inner light was not his to own. It was a gift you were carrying for him. Now, he has to deal with the raw material of his own psyche without your help. He has to face the parts of himself that he was avoiding by focusing on you. His own loneliness, his own fear of intimacy, his own undeveloped emotional life. The qualities he admired in you, your warmth, your depth, your emotional intelligence, are often the very qualities his own anima is trying to develop within him. As long as you were there to provide them for him, he didn't have to do the work of integrating them himself. Your withdrawal is an unconscious invitation for him to begin his own journey of individuation. It forces him to withdraw the projection from you and begin the difficult process of finding his anima within himself. This is a painful and often resisted process. Most men will not consciously understand this. They will only feel a confusing mix of anger, longing, and loss, all directed at you. They will blame you for their discomfort. She changed. She became cold. She's not the person I thought she was. And they are right. You are not the person they thought you were, because they never saw the real person. They saw a projection. The moment you stop embodying that projection, the illusion shatters. And what is left is the uncomfortable reality of two separate individuals. This brings us to the most important part of this entire process, the shift of focus from him back to you. The question, "What is he feeling?" is a trap. It keeps you externally focused, waiting for a sign, making his reaction the measure of your worth. It keeps you in the role of the mirror, even in your absence. The real question is, What am I feeling in this new silence? What happens inside a woman when she stops being available? At first, it can feel like withdrawal for you too. You were getting something from this dynamic. Being the carrier of his anima projection can feel powerful. It can feel like being uniquely special, chosen. To be the one who gets him, who soothes his soul, is a potent role. To give that up is to give up a source of validation. In this new space you've created, your own shadow will emerge. The part of you that felt worthy only when chosen. The part that learned that love means being endlessly accommodating. The part that fears being alone, not because you lack company, but because you lack a role to play in someone else's story. This is your own inner work, mirrored by his. He must integrate his anima. You must integrate your animus. The animus, in Jungian psychology, is the unconscious masculine side of a woman's psyche. It often manifests as a collection of beliefs about authority, power, and meaning, which are then projected onto a man. When you project your animus, you give him the power to define your worth. His opinion becomes the ultimate truth. His attention feels like salvation. By withdrawing your availability, you are not just taking away his mirror, you are taking back your own projection. You are refusing to let him be the sole arbiter of your value. This is a radical act of self-possession. It is terrifying, and it is liberating. In the quiet, you will have to face the ghost of your own projected animus. You will hear its voice, whispering that you've made a mistake, that you've pushed him away, that you will end up alone. This is the voice of the old pattern, the voice of the complex that equated love with self-abandonment. Your task is not to argue with this voice, but to simply notice it and to choose to anchor yourself in a deeper truth. Your worth is not contingent on being available to someone who is not available to you. Your value is not in being a reflection for someone else's journey. Your value is inherent. As you sit in this new stillness, you begin to change. The frantic energy of waiting drains away. You start to hear your own thoughts again, feel your own feelings, want your own wants. You are no longer living in reaction to him. You are living in response to yourself. You are no longer a mirror. You are becoming a lamp. You are generating your own light. And this is the greatest paradox of all. A man who was drawn to you as a passive mirror may be confused and angered by your withdrawal. He may drift away in search of another, more accommodating surface for his projections. And if he does, you must let him go. He was never in love with you anyway. But a man who has some degree of consciousness, a man who is ready for his own growth, will be unconsciously intrigued by this change. A woman who is a mirror is attractive, but a woman who is a source of her own light is magnetic. She is no longer just an object of desire. She becomes a subject of respect. He feels this shift on an energetic level. Your absence is no longer a void, but a presence. The presence of your self-respect, the presence of your boundaries, the presence of a life you are building for yourself. This new energy is far more powerful than the old energy of neediness and constant availability. He may not understand it, but he will feel it. He will sense that you are no longer playing the same game. And this is when a genuine possibility for a new kind of connection can emerge. If he does reach out now, it won't be a breadcrumb to test your availability. It will be a more hesitant, more authentic, and perhaps more fearful approach. He is approaching a woman who is whole, not a woman who is a missing piece of himself. He is approaching someone who doesn't need him, but might choose him. And that is a far more intimidating and far more real proposition. If this exploration of the unseen dynamics in relationships is resonating with something deep inside you, something you felt but couldn't name, consider this a moment of recognition. You are not just learning a theory, you are seeing the architecture of your own experience. The ultimate goal is not to manipulate him into coming back. The strategies of no contact that are taught as a way to get your ex back are merely a repurposing of the same dysfunctional dynamic. They are about using unavailability as a tactic, a weapon. But what we are talking about here is not a tactic. It is a transformation. It is about becoming unavailable to patterns that require you to abandon yourself. It's about letting your silence be a statement not of punishment, but of principle. The principle that your presence is valuable, and it will be shared with those who see and respect the real you, not a fantasy they've projected onto you. So what do you do in this space? You do nothing, and you do everything. You do nothing to get his attention. You do everything to give yourself your own attention. You turn the powerful focus you had on him back onto your own life. You fill your own cup. You cultivate your own garden. You listen to the music that makes your soul dance. You reconnect with the friends who see you clearly. You engage with work that gives you meaning. You are not doing this to make him jealous or to show him what he's missing. You are doing this because you are finally remembering what you have been missing, yourself. And slowly, something miraculous happens. The obsession with him begins to fade. The emotional charge dissipates. You might still feel a pang of sadness for the connection that was, or for the potential you thought it had. But it's a clean sadness, not the toxic, anxious fog of waiting. You begin to see the situation with clarity. You see the projections, you see the roles you both played, and you can feel compassion for him, and for yourself. You understand that he was not a monster. He was just a man, struggling unconsciously with his own inner world, as we all are. And you were not a fool. You were a woman who loved, and who learned that some ways of loving cost too much. The final stage of this journey is indifference. Not a cold, resentful indifference, but a calm, peaceful indifference. The outcome no longer matters. Whether he comes back or not has become irrelevant, because you have already come back to yourself. You have found the source of validation, love, and meaning within. If he does return, he will be met by a different woman. A woman who is not a mirror, but a presence. A woman who will not hold his projections, but will demand to be seen for who she is. A woman who is available not out of need, but out of choice. She will not tolerate a relationship built on illusion, because she is no longer willing to live in one herself. She will require a connection between two whole, separate individuals. And many men, still caught in their unconscious patterns, are not ready for that level of reality. But some are, or some can be, when faced with a woman who embodies this kind of self-possession. Your transformation becomes an invitation for his. But you do not do it for him, you do it for you. You take back the mirror, you polish it, and you turn it towards yourself. And for the first time in a long time, you see the woman who was there all along, waiting patiently beneath the layers of projections and expectations. You see her strength, her resilience, her light, and you realize she is more than enough. Your value is not in being a reflection for someone else. Your silence is not a game. It is the sound of you coming home to yourself. Let's trace this homecoming back into the body, where the story is written in a language older than words. The decision to stop being available is made in the mind, but it is the body that must live out the consequences. For weeks, maybe months, your body was a battlefield. The constant checking of the phone created a specific posture. The craned neck, the tense shoulders, the shallow breathing of a creature on high alert. Your digestive system was likely in knots, a physical manifestation of trying to digest an inconsistent and unsatisfying connection. Sleep was fractured, your mind racing through replays and future scenarios, even in the dark. When you withdraw, your body begins a slow and sometimes painful detoxification. The absence of his messages means an absence of the intermittent dopamine hits you had become addicted to. In the first few days, this can feel like a physical illness, a restlessness in your limbs, a hollow feeling in your stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. You might feel a phantom vibration in your pocket, your nervous system so conditioned to his potential presence that it manufactures the signal itself. This is the body's memory, the cellular expectation of a pattern that has now been broken. This is the shadow side of the anima animus dance, written in sinew and nerve. The projection was not just a psychological concept, it was a biochemical reality. Being his chosen one, the perfect mirror for his soul, released a cocktail of oxytocin and dopamine that felt like safety, like purpose. Taking it away feels, to the primitive brain, like a threat to survival. Your shadow, the part of you that fears abandonment above all else, will use this physical discomfort as evidence. It will whisper, "See, you feel terrible. This is wrong. You need him. This silence is a punishment you've inflicted on yourself." It will urge you to reach out, just to soothe the physical ache, just to calm the frantic energy. But if you can sit with this discomfort, if you can breathe into that hollow space in your chest instead of trying to fill it with him, something profound begins to happen. After the initial storm of withdrawal, a new calm starts to settle. One morning, you will wake up and realize you slept through the entire night. You'll notice the knot in your shoulders has loosened. You will take a deep, full-body breath, and it will feel like the first real breath you've taken in months. You are no longer living in the adrenalized state of fight or flight, but are slowly returning to the parasympathetic state of rest and digest. Your body is no longer a satellite, oriented around his signal. It is becoming your home again. You start to feel grounded, solid in your own skin. This feeling, this deep, somatic peace, becomes your new anchor. It is more real and more reliable than any text message he could ever send. As your own system regulates, his is thrown into deeper chaos. His ego's initial attempts to regain control, the punitive silence, the low-effort breadcrumbs, have failed to bring the mirror back. The surface-level frustration now gives way to a more significant internal pressure. The emptiness he feels begins to take on a more menacing shape. This is because the projection of the anima was not just about feeling desired. It was a sophisticated psychological defense mechanism. You, in your role as the perfect, available feminine, were a buffer between him and his own existential dread. Your warmth filled a void within him that he was terrified to face. This void might be a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy, a fear of his own mortality, or a profound lack of meaning in his life that his career, hobbies, and other distractions could not quell. You were the ultimate distraction, the drama of the connection, the highs of your attention, the lows of the uncertainty. It was all a vibrant, noisy show that kept him from having to sit in silence with himself. When you withdraw, the show is over. The curtain falls, and he is left alone in the theater, staring at the empty stage of his own inner world. The anger he might feel towards you now is not truly about you. It is the fury of a man whose shield has been taken away in the middle of a battle he didn't even know he was fighting. He blames you for his pain, because the alternative is to face the source of the pain itself, a source that existed long before he ever met you. You didn't create the void, you just stopped filling it. Your absence forces a confrontation. He is left with two choices: find another woman to quickly fill that void and replicate the pattern, or finally turn and face the emptiness he has been running from. The path he chooses has nothing to do with your worth, and everything to do with his own readiness for genuine growth. This brings us to the most perilous and pivotal moment in your own journey, the late practical test. After a significant period of silence, a silence that you have used to truly heal and recenter, he may return. This return will be different from the earlier breadcrumbs. It will have more weight, more intention, because it has been born out of a longer, more profound absence. It might be a call out of the blue, a long email. A message that says, "I've been doing a lot of thinking." The old you, the you who was starving for this contact, would have felt a jolt of triumphant relief. Your heart would pound, and your first instinct would be to respond with warmth, enthusiasm, and immediate availability, proving that you were waiting all along. This response, however, would instantly reset the dynamic to its old, dysfunctional factory settings. It would teach him that all he has to do is wait you out, and you will eventually fold. But the woman you are now, the woman who has tasted the deep peace of self-possession, responds differently. You feel the message land, but it does not destabilize you. You are anchored in that new somatic calm. You do not respond immediately, not as a game, but because you are no longer in a state of anxious reactivity. You have a life you are engaged in, and you will respond when you have the space to do so thoughtfully. When you do respond, your response is the test. It is calm, polite, but it is not effusive. It does not rush to fill the silence. It is an act of observation. You are now a scientist of dynamics, and you are gathering data. The crucial questions are not spoken aloud, but are held in your awareness. First, is he trying to nostalgically relive the past, or is he trying to build something new in the present? Listen for the language he uses. Is it all about remember when, and how good things used to be? This is often a lure back into the fantasy of the projection. A man who has genuinely grown will be more focused on the here and now. He will ask about your life now, with genuine curiosity. He will want to know the woman you have become in the silence, not just reminisce about the woman you were. Second, does he take responsibility for his side of the old dynamic? He may not have the psychological language of anima projection, but he can express the sentiment. Does he say things like, "I realize I was taking you for granted," Or, I was distant and inconsistent, and that wasn't fair to you. Or does he gloss over the past, acting as if nothing happened, or worse, subtly blaming you by saying things like, "You just disappeared"? A lack of acknowledgement is a red flag that no real insight has occurred. He simply missed the function you served, not the person you are. Third, what is the nature of his invitation? Is he asking for a vague, non-committal hang out sometime? This is often a test to see if you are still available for low-effort, ego-soothing encounters. Or is he making a clear, respectful, and definite plan? "I would like to take you to dinner next Tuesday to talk. Are you free?" This demonstrates intention and respect for your time. It treats you like a priority, not an option. His reaction to your new, centered self is the final piece of data. He will sense that you are different. You are no longer an open door. You are a woman with a gate, and the gate is your self-respect. If he becomes frustrated, impatient, or tries to use charm or guilt to push past your boundaries, the test is over. He has failed. He is not seeking connection, he is seeking access, and you are no longer available for that. If, however, he meets your calm boundaries with respect, if he is patient, if he shows genuine curiosity about your inner world, and if he is willing to build a new dynamic based on consistency and clear communication, then, and only then, is there a possibility for something real to begin. Not a continuation of the old story, but the start of an entirely new one. But here is the secret that solidifies your transformation. By the time you are able to conduct this test with such clarity and detachment, you will find you are no longer invested in the outcome. His return is no longer the prize. The prize is the woman you had to become to be able to meet his return in this way. The prize is your own sovereignty. The journey does not end with him passing or failing a test. It ends when you realize you are no longer grading papers. You have graduated from the school of waiting. The landscape of your life is now rich and varied. You have cultivated friendships that nourish you, work that fulfills you, and a relationship with yourself that is unwavering. The experience with him was not a failure. It was an initiation. It was the grit in the oyster that forced you to create a pearl. That pearl is your integrated self, a self that knows its own worth not as a concept, but as a lived, embodied reality. You are no longer a mirror waiting to be looked into, or a lamp waiting to be switched on. You are the landscape itself, lush, whole, and complete. You can enjoy sharing your world with a conscious traveler who wishes to walk alongside you, but your existence does not depend on their presence. You are the destination, and you have finally, blessedly, arrived.